Most men spend their lives believing they know women. They trust what is spoken, the smiles, the reassurances, the polite confessions. Yet what rarely crosses their mind is that what she tells you and what she truly thinks are two entirely different worlds. What is admitted in daylight is not the same as what is whispered in silence. Behind every soft phrase lies an undercurrent she may never allow to surface. And this hidden layer directs more of your life than you dare to imagine. It determines who she craves, who she respects, and who she quietly keeps as nothing more than a backup option. You see, men grow up under the illusion that women's words can be taken at face value. When she says, "I just want a nice guy," we nod, thinking the statement is honest. When she insists, "Looks don't matter," we take it as truth. When she reassures, "I love you for who you are," we cling to those words as if they are the final word on the subject. But life proves otherwise. You've seen her leave the loyal man for the one who barely acknowledges her existence. You've noticed the woman who preaches independence and empowerment, yet can't hide the light in her eyes when confronted by a man who actually leads. The contradiction gnaws at you because deep down, you sense something is off. Carl Jung once warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That wisdom doesn't apply only to men's inner struggles. It explains female psychology too. What she cannot admit, what she represses, doesn't vanish. It slips through in the choices she makes, the men she gives her body to, and the ones she keeps at arm's length. Women wear a mask, not always out of malice, but out of survival. History taught them to present a softer, socially acceptable version of their desires while keeping the raw impulses buried. And this mask is what blinds men, because we believe the surface instead of reading the reality. If you doubt it, think of the times you've seen her actions betray her words. Perhaps a friend who swore she was happy with her boyfriend, yet confided her excitement about a man who barely noticed her. Or maybe you remember how a woman who demanded politeness and patience secretly fantasized about the kind of man who doesn't ask permission, he simply leads. Those contradictions are not accidents. They are the cracks in the mask that reveal something far deeper. This is why understanding women requires more than listening. It requires observation. Words will tell you one story, but choices always tell the truth. Women themselves often don't want to face what their desires reveal, because those truths conflict with the ideals society demands they uphold. And so, they smile, they reassure, they promise. But beneath it all, another story unfolds, one that explains why the nice guy is abandoned, why the aloof man is chased, and why countless men find themselves blindsided when love suddenly turns cold. And here's the uncomfortable part. This hidden story is not random. It is the blueprint of female desire, a current that flows beneath every interaction, whether acknowledged or not. To see it is to shatter illusions, but to remain blind is to live in confusion, wondering why words never match reality. Reflect on this carefully. How many times in your own life have you believed what she told you, only to watch her do the opposite? How many times have you trusted the mask, only to be betrayed by the truth it concealed? The man who begins to see beyond the mask gains an advantage few ever achieve. He stops being shocked when affection fades, when interest shifts, when commitment dissolves without warning. He realizes these were never sudden turns. They were inevitable outcomes of impulses hidden in plain sight. And this awareness opens the door to the deeper truths we are about to face. Because if the mask conceals her surface contradictions, what lies beneath will disturb you even more. For under the polite talk of niceness and safety rests a paradox of desire that most men are too afraid to confront. The greatest contradiction men face with women is this: what she says she wants and what she truly desires are rarely the same. On the surface, she will tell you she wants kindness, stability, and safety. And in a sense, she does. But beneath that surface, at the level of her instincts, there is something far more primal at work. Desire does not bow to politeness. It has its own logic, shaped by thousands of years of evolution. Women live with two layers of attraction. The first is the socially acceptable version, the one she shares with her friends, her parents, and often even with you. This is the world of, "I just want a good man," or "I value emotional connection above everything else." Then comes the second layer, the one buried deep in her psyche, where instincts rule. This is the layer she rarely admits, sometimes not even to herself. It is where her body and imagination betray her, drawn not to the man who accommodates every wish, but to the one who commands her without asking. Look at what women actually consume when nobody is watching. Romance novels, films, and fantasies are not about polite men who always compromise. They're about men who dominate their world, who bend reality to their will, who overwhelm her with their presence. The best-selling female fiction of all time proves this. From 50 Shades of Grey to timeless archetypes like Dracula or Mr. Darcy, the theme repeats: danger fused with protection, dominance softened by choice. Freud once said, "What we repress never ceases to exist, it only returns in disguised form." The forbidden desire for surrender, for being overwhelmed, doesn't disappear when society tells her it's shameful. It returns in fantasy and fiction, in the subtle hunger she cannot hide. This does not mean women long for cruelty or humiliation. It means they are drawn to strength restrained by self-control. The man who could break her, but chooses to protect her instead. The paradox is simple. She wants safety, but safety only feels real when it comes from someone who is strong enough to destroy it. That tension between danger and protection is the electric current of attraction. And when a man plays only at being safe, endlessly accommodating, endlessly agreeable, he creates not comfort, but boredom. His weakness suffocates her desire, even while she thanks him for his kindness. Consider your own experiences. How many times have you been the good guy, the one who gave everything, only to watch her drift toward a man who seemed careless, even reckless? How many times did you wonder why the woman who swore she wanted peace couldn't let go of the man who destabilized her world? These contradictions are not madness. They are the reality of her instinctual wiring. She doesn't fantasize about weakness, she fantasizes about power. And power, to her unconscious, feels like life itself. The most unsettling truth is this: her body is often more honest than her words. She may tell you she values gentleness above all, but her pulse races in the presence of strength. She may reassure you that love is enough, but her imagination paints pictures of surrender. And when the tension between her words and her instincts grows too wide, respect collapses. Jung reminded us that every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. Men addicted to the ideal of the nice guy lose themselves in a fantasy every bit as destructive as the ones women hide. And this leads us to the next layer of truth. What happens when her desire fades into resentment, when she stays with the man she settled for, but dreams of another? That silent poison does not stay hidden forever. It festers in comparison, in contempt, until one day it bursts through the surface and leaves men stunned, wondering what went wrong. What unsettles most men is not the sudden breakup, the affair, or the cold withdrawal. It is the realization that these moments were never sudden at all. They were the fruit of something growing silently beneath the surface. Resentment. A woman can lie beside you, tell you she loves you, share a home with you, and still harbor a quiet contempt that you never see until it is too late. This hidden bitterness eats away at her respect long before desire dies, and once respect is gone, intimacy cannot survive. Schopenhauer warned that marriage is a debt that men pay for a single night of pleasure. His words, though harsh, capture a truth many ignore. Women are masters at appearing content while secretly comparing. They compare constantly against the men they once had, the men they could not have, the images flashing on their screens, the strangers who made their heart race for a fleeting second. Even in relationships that look stable, an invisible scorecard lingers. She may smile at dinner, she may post pictures of the perfect couple online, but deep down a voice whispers, "Did I settle? Could I have done better?" This quiet voice is what drives the contradictions you've seen with your own eyes. The woman who stays with a dependable provider yet lights up in the presence of a man who exudes danger. The girlfriend who tells her partner he is everything she wants, while secretly scrolling through the feeds of men she will never meet. The wife who swears she is happy, but whose imagination paints scenes with someone stronger, someone untamed. That is the poison of comparison. It does not always replace love, but it corrodes respect. And when respect is gone, desire becomes a hollow performance. Men are often blindsided because they believe too much in the surface. They mistake the mask for reality. But women evolved to keep that mask firmly in place. For centuries, survival required them to conceal their raw instincts. A woman who revealed too much risked rejection, danger, or judgment. So she learned to play both sides, one self built for public stability, another hidden in shadow, unspoken yet powerful. Jung described this duality as the persona and the shadow. The persona is the polished mask she shows the world, the agreeable version you fall in love with. The shadow is where her repressed desires and contradictions live, often erupting in fantasies, in private conversations with friends, in hidden corners of her life that you rarely see. Think of how many men believed their partner was perfectly loyal, only to later uncover secret messages or hidden profiles. Think of the countless stories of husbands shocked by divorce papers after years of what seemed like normalcy. These are not sudden betrayals. They are the breaking of the mask. And that is why so many men collapse when it happens. Because what they thought was real was only ever a performance for stability. The truth had been whispering all along in her silences, in her comparisons, in the flicker of her eyes when a stronger presence entered the room. Reflect for a moment. How many times in your own life did you sense something was off, but you dismissed it because you wanted to believe her words? How many times did you silence your instincts because facing them would have meant admitting she was not as content as she claimed? Men often know, but they choose not to see. And that blindness is what leaves them powerless when the mask finally slips. Yet even this is not the end of the story. For women do not simply wear masks to hide comparison. They also test, they probe, they push, they measure. It is not always conscious, but it is relentless. And these tests, more than anything else, determine whether her respect will grow or vanish. Every man who has spent enough time around women knows this truth. Even if he struggles to admit it, she will test you. Not once, not twice, but endlessly. Sometimes it is subtle, sometimes obvious, but always present. These tests are not random acts of cruelty, they are filters. They are the ways she discovers whether the man standing before her is truly who he claims to be, or just another pretender. It might appear as sudden coldness after days of warmth. It might be a fight sparked out of nothing. It might be a jealous glance when she posts a picture designed to provoke your reaction. Or it might be silence, the withdrawal that leaves you wondering what you did wrong. To the unprepared man, these moments feel like traps, and in truth, they are. Because in those moments, what she is really asking is, are you stronger than me? Do you lead or do you bend? Most men fail because they take the test literally. They panic, explain, beg, or argue. They collapse under pressure, proving exactly what she feared, that his strength was only a mask, not a reality. And in that collapse, her respect begins to wither. She may not leave immediately. She may stay for months or years. But desire dies when respect dies, and no amount of pleading will revive it. But the man who passes her tests is different. He does not argue. He does not grovel for her reassurance. He does not crumble when challenged. Instead, he holds frame. He shows her, without words, that no matter how she pushes, he does not break. It is not stubbornness, it is sovereignty. It is the calm strength of a man rooted in himself, not in her approval. And paradoxically, that is what deepens her attraction. She may never thank him for it. She may never even admit it to herself. But her body knows. Her instincts know. And her respect grows in the presence of a man she cannot control. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." He was not speaking of cruelty, but of power. In the realm of desire, a man who is only loved but not respected will eventually be discarded. A man who commands respect, even through fear of his strength, will always be desired. Women crave the man who cannot be bent, because only in his presence does her surrender feel real. This is where many men fall into ruin. They confuse love with submission, thinking that giving her everything she asks for will pass her tests. But her tests are not about what you give. They are about what you refuse to give up: your frame, your self-respect, your sovereignty. And when a man yields these things, he does not earn her gratitude. He earns her contempt. Now, understand the darker side of this truth. Sometimes, tests slip into manipulation. A woman may consciously pull strings, playing hot and cold, withholding intimacy, provoking jealousy, just to see how much control she can exert. Every time a man caves to these games, he loses ground. Every time he sacrifices his dignity for temporary peace, her desire weakens. And soon, he finds himself broken, drained, emasculated, all while she wonders why she no longer feels anything for him. The bitter truth is that women will never stop testing. It is wired into their psychology, shaped by centuries where choosing the wrong man meant danger, poverty, even death. But for the man who understands this, the game changes. He no longer begs for the test to end. He no longer crumbles in confusion. He accepts them for what they are, the instinctual search for strength. And he meets them not with anger, but with unshakable presence. So here is where the choice lies for you. You can remain blind, clinging to her words, shocked every time a desire fades, every time a relationship crumbles. Or you can awaken. You can see through the mask, understand her double life, recognize her tests for what they are. You can stop chasing her approval and start embodying the strength she cannot resist. The man who does this finds freedom. He no longer fears betrayal because he knows that loyalty is not earned through endless giving, but through the respect commanded by strength. He no longer collapses under her contradictions because he sees the pattern behind the mask. He no longer wastes years wondering why love slipped away because he understands that desire is not sustained by comfort, but by power. If these truths disturb you, let them. If they shake you, let them. Because only the man willing to be disturbed by truth has the chance to be transformed by it. The illusions of modern culture would have you believe that women love you for endless compromise, for endless niceness, for endless sacrifice. But history, psychology, and your own lived experience prove otherwise. She craves a man she cannot fully control. She respects the one who holds frame. And she stays loyal, not to weakness, but to strength. So remember this, women will never admit their secret thoughts out loud. But once you understand them, you no longer need her confession. You already know. And with that knowledge, you stand at a crossroads. Ignore it and remain blind, or embrace it and rise above. Become the man who cannot be manipulated, who commands respect without begging, who embodies the strength that makes surrender possible. That is the path. That is the mission. And if you are still listening, you already know you were meant for it.